The planet of Allure was small and distant, nestled far away at the edge of known space. It was beautiful, with skies of soft purple and oceans that shimmered like crystal. Trees with silvery leaves stood quietly along hillsides, and the gentle winds whispered through tall blue grass. Yet beneath this beauty lay sadness and hardship out in one of Allure's small mining colonies. An alien woman named Nira sat alone near the edge of a dusty path. Her eyes were large and filled with sorrow, shining gently with unshed tears. Her delicate skin, pale and translucent, glowed softly under the fading daylight. Every day she came here to cry, hoping someone would hear and care about the pain she felt. But day after day, no one stopped or listened. Life was hard for Nira and her people. They were forced to mine rare minerals by those who controlled the colony. The overseers did not care about their health or happiness. They only cared about profits. Workers, including Nira's family, worked long hours deep beneath the surface, digging endlessly in dangerous tunnels. Many became sick or injured, but there was little help or medicine. Those who could no longer work were quickly forgotten. Nira's own family had suffered greatly. Her parents had become ill from the toxic dust in the mines. Despite her pleas for help, the colony's managers had turned away, ignoring her desperate cries. Feeling helpless and ignored, Nira had watched her parents weaken until they could no longer rise from their beds. Each day, her heart broke a little more. Today, the air was heavy with sorrow. Nira cried softly, her quiet sobs carried away by the gentle breeze. Other colonists walked past her, their eyes focused ahead, unwilling or unable to offer comfort. They were afraid, knowing that helping Nira could bring punishment from the overseers. Fear and silence had become their way of life, but Nira could not stay silent. Her voice, though weak, was filled with the strength of her sadness. She called out softly, hoping that perhaps someone would finally hear. "Please," she whispered, her voice breaking, "someone help us. Help my family." But once again, her plea disappeared into the silence around her. Nearby, in the shadows, the overseers watched coldly. They had seen Nira there many times before, weeping and begging. They did not care about her tears or her suffering. To them, Nira and her people were tools useful only as long as they were strong enough to work. When their strength faded, they became worthless, forgotten. Time passed slowly, and the light began to fade as evening approached. Nira rose slowly, wiping away her tears. She knew tomorrow would bring more of the same hardship, yet she would return again, hoping that someday things might change. She turned to walk home, her shoulders heavy with sadness, her heart aching with a deep loneliness. But today, something was different. As Nira walked away from her spot, a spaceship descended quietly from the sky, landing carefully on the outskirts of the colony. The landing was gentle, the dust rising softly around the craft, glowing faintly in the twilight. From the ship emerged several figures, tall and curious, their forms hidden by the fading light. The newcomers were humans, arriving from far-off Earth on a mission of peace and understanding. They had come to learn, to see, and to report back to their own people. Among them was Lucas, a young man whose heart was open and kind. He looked around the colony, immediately sensing the sadness and despair. Lucas and his companions began to explore quietly, observing and noting everything they saw. Lucas was especially drawn to the paths less traveled, the places where sorrow lingered strongest. It was on one such path that he saw Nira, her small figure slowly retreating into the shadows. He could feel her sadness from afar, an ache that touched him deeply. He decided to follow quietly, not wanting to scare her. Lucas wondered why no one else seemed to care, or even notice the sadness radiating from this small, delicate figure. With gentle steps, he approached closer, determined to discover why such pain was ignored, unaware that someone finally saw her. Nira moved slowly toward home, lost in her thoughts. But soon, her life would change, for tonight, her cries had finally reached someone who truly cared. Lucas had heard her sadness, and he knew he could not simply walk away. Lucas watched quietly from a safe distance as Nira slowly walked through the dusty streets of the mining colony. He felt a deep sadness inside him as he saw the condition of the colony. The buildings were old and crumbling, and the paths were worn and uneven. Lucas had been to many planets, but he had never seen so much quiet suffering. He followed carefully, trying not to attract attention. His companions had gone to explore other areas, but something in Lucas told him he needed to stay close to this woman. Her sorrow was clear, even from far away. It moved him deeply. As Nira reached a small, rundown building, Lucas stopped and waited. He saw her enter slowly, her head bowed and shoulders heavy. The house was small, with walls of faded colors and cracked windows. A faint light glowed from inside, barely visible through the dusty glass. Lucas hesitated, unsure what he should do next. He knew that he was a stranger here, and entering someone's home without permission was not right. But the pain he felt from Nira pushed him forward. He decided to approach the house carefully and gently knocked on the door. There was silence at first. Then, slowly, the door opened just a little. Nira's face appeared, her eyes wide and cautious. She looked afraid, as if expecting trouble or pain. Lucas smiled kindly and softly said, "I saw you on the path, and I heard your cries. I am here to help. May I come in?" Nira studied him for a long moment, unsure whether to trust him. Number one had ever offered help before, not genuinely, but there was something warm and true in Lucas's eyes, something that touched her heart. Slowly, she nodded and opened the door wider. Inside, the house was small and dimly lit. Lucas noticed that it was simple, almost empty, with only a few old pieces of furniture. In the corner, two figures lay on worn mattresses. They were Nira's parents, weak and barely awake. Their breathing was shallow, and Lucas could see clearly that they were very sick. "Who are you?" Nira asked softly, her voice trembling with worry. "My name is Lucas," he answered gently. "I come from Earth. My friends and I are here to learn and understand your world. When I heard your cries, I had to see what was wrong. Tell me everything." Tears filled Nira's eyes once more as she explained everything to Lucas. She described the mines, the overseers, and the terrible conditions her family faced each day. She spoke of how her parents had grown sick and how no one cared enough to help. Each word was painful for her, but Lucas listened patiently, his face full of concern. When Nira finished speaking, Lucas stood up slowly. "This is not right," he said quietly, his voice firm but gentle. "Your people deserve better. I promise I will try to help you. My friends and I will make sure others know about what is happening here. You are no longer alone." Nira's eyes widened with surprise and hope. No one had ever promised her anything before. She could hardly believe what she was hearing. "Why do you care?" she asked quietly, her voice barely a whisper. Lucas smiled kindly again, looking directly into her eyes. "Because every person deserves care and respect," he replied simply. "No one should be forgotten or ignored. Your life matters, Nira. Your family matters. I will do everything I can to help." For the first time in a long while, Nira felt a small spark of hope begin to grow inside her. She did not know how Lucas would help, or if he could truly change things, but his kindness meant everything. His words were strong, clear, and filled with honesty. Nira found herself believing in him, trusting him even though they had just met. Lucas stepped outside to call his friends, explaining quickly what he had learned. They were shocked and immediately agreed that action must be taken. Together, they planned to gather evidence of the poor conditions and report their findings to powerful groups who could force change. As Lucas returned to Nira, he saw that her parents were awake now, watching him with cautious eyes. He knelt beside them and said softly, "We will help you. Please hold on a little longer." Their weak smiles told Lucas they understood, and their eyes filled with gratitude. Nira stood close, her heart feeling lighter for the first time in ages. She knew things might not change overnight, but now there was hope. And that meant everything. Lucas knew the fight ahead would be difficult, but he was ready. He had promised Nira help, and he intended to keep that promise. The first step had been taken, and he knew he would not stop until the people of Allura found the justice and kindness they deserve. The next morning, Lucas woke up early, filled with a sense of purpose. He and his friends met to discuss their plan. They knew they had little time and needed to move quickly. The overseers would not be happy about outsiders interfering in their colony's business. Lucas, Kate, and Aaron divided their tasks clearly. Lucas would gather more evidence of the terrible conditions in the mines. Kate, an engineer, would document the unsafe structures and equipment. Aaron, the medic, would check on the workers' health and record everything carefully. They were determined that their findings would make powerful authorities notice and act. After the meeting, Lucas went to find Nira. He needed her help to understand the mines better. Nira was waiting for him, nervous but hopeful. She led Lucas quietly toward the entrance of the mines. Along the way, they passed many workers, all moving slowly, their faces tired and worn. Lucas felt a deep sadness again, stronger than before. As they entered the mine, Lucas was shocked. The tunnels were narrow, dark, and filled with dust. The air felt heavy and smelled strange. Workers, including young ones and elderly aliens, struggled to move heavy loads. Many coughed constantly, their breathing harsh and painful. Nira explained that the overseers made them work without breaks. If we rest or slow down, they punish us, she said softly. Lucas listened carefully, noting every detail. He took pictures and recorded the conditions using a small hidden device. His heart broke seeing children working, their eyes empty of joy. Deeper in the mines, Nira pointed out dangerous cracks in the walls. Some tunnels were on the verge of collapsing. Lucas documented it all carefully. Suddenly, they heard shouting behind them. Lucas turned quickly, his heart racing. Several overseers approached, angry and suspicious. "What are you doing here?" One overseer shouted, glaring at Lucas. Nira shrank back, afraid. But Lucas stepped forward calmly. "I am visiting the mine to see how your workers are treated." Lucas explained carefully, trying to sound confident but respectful. "I represent Earth, and we are concerned about what we've heard." The overseers looked furious. "You have no right to be here." One yelled, "Leave immediately, or there will be trouble." Lucas nodded calmly, not wanting to provoke them further. "Of course," he said evenly, "we will leave now." Outside the mines, Lucas and Nira hurried away, shaken but determined. Lucas knew they needed to gather the evidence faster. Time was running out. He quickly sent the recordings and pictures to Kate and Aaron, who were gathering their own evidence elsewhere. Meanwhile, Kate moved swiftly through the colony, carefully examining the buildings and machinery. She found broken safety equipment, unstable buildings, and dangerous tools. Each finding made her more upset and determined to help. Aaron was equally troubled, discovering sick and injured workers without proper medicine or care. The three humans met again in the late afternoon. They shared their evidence, shocked by how terrible conditions truly were. Lucas felt anger rising in him. "We must show this to everyone," he said firmly. "People must know. We cannot allow this to continue." They sent their findings to Earth and to several powerful interstellar groups, asking urgently for immediate help. Lucas made sure the messages were clear and strong, highlighting the worst abuses. Afterward, he went to find Nira again, to tell her what they had done. When Nira heard, she felt hope rising again inside her. She smiled softly, tears of gratitude filling her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. "No one has ever cared like this before." Lucas smiled gently in return. "Your voice matters, Nira. You matter. Together, we will change things. You will never be alone again." That night, Lucas and his friends stayed awake late, anxiously waiting for replies from Earth and other authorities. They knew the overseers might soon find out and cause trouble, but they refused to give up. The evidence they had was powerful, and it could not be ignored. In the quiet darkness, Lucas thought of Nira and the many others suffering silently. He knew they had done something brave and right, but the battle was just beginning. Tomorrow would be difficult, but he was ready. He felt strong, knowing he was fighting for justice and compassion. Meanwhile, the overseers gathered secretly, furious and worried. They knew the humans could ruin everything. Plans were quickly made to stop Lucas and his friends. Tomorrow would indeed be dangerous, but Lucas and his team were prepared to face whatever challenges awaited. For Nira and her people, hope was finally becoming real, thanks to one human's willingness to listen and care. The next morning came swiftly, bringing a sense of urgency. Lucas, Kate, and Aaron woke early, knowing their mission was far from complete. They could feel the tension building within the colony, aware that the overseers might soon act against them. Lucas met Nira near her home. He found her waiting, anxious, and hopeful. She glanced around nervously, clearly worried about being watched. "The overseers are planning something," she whispered. "I heard them talking late last night. They know you sent messages for help." Lucas nodded thoughtfully. "We expected that. But don't worry, Nira. Help is coming, and soon everyone will see the truth." Still, Nira couldn't hide her worry. The overseers held power, and they had never hesitated to use it harshly. "Please be careful," she said softly, eyes wide with concern. "They won't hesitate to hurt you." Lucas reassured her, though he knew the danger was very real. "We will be careful," he promised, "but we won't stop until things change." With determination, Lucas and his team split up again to continue their work. Lucas focused on talking to more workers, hearing their stories, and encouraging them to speak openly. He recorded each story, each heartbreaking detail strengthening their cause. Kate, meanwhile, moved through the colony documenting even more evidence of neglect. She took careful notes, capturing images of broken machines, unsafe housing, and crowded sleeping areas. Her heart sank with every new discovery, knowing how unnecessary the suffering was. Aaron was in the colony's small clinic, doing his best to help the sick workers. He treated wounds and illnesses, providing the limited medicine he had brought from Earth. As he worked, he carefully recorded the workers' poor health conditions, gathering proof to show how desperately they needed better care. By midday, news spread that the overseers had called an emergency meeting. Lucas and his friends exchanged worried glances, aware the meeting was likely about them. Lucas decided to attend, needing to hear directly what was being planned. The meeting was held in a large open area near the center of the colony. A crowd had gathered, tense and unsure. The overseers stood on a raised platform, stern and cold-eyed. Lucas slipped quietly into the crowd, keeping his head down. One overseer, a tall and imposing figure, stepped forward to speak. His voice was loud and harsh. "We know outsiders have interfered in our colony. These humans want to cause trouble, not help. If anyone speaks to them or gives them any information, they will face severe punishment." The crowd murmured uneasily. Fear spread quickly, and many avoided eye contact, afraid to challenge the overseers. Lucas watched with sadness and anger, knowing he must respond. Taking a deep breath, he stepped forward through the crowd. "I am Lucas," he said clearly, his voice strong and calm. "We are here to help, not harm. Your treatment of these people is wrong, and it must stop. We have sent our evidence to powerful groups who will demand justice. You can't silence everyone." The overseer stared at Lucas, his eyes filled with fury. "You dare speak against us?" he roared. "You will regret this." Lucas remained calm. "No, your workers deserve better treatment. They deserve respect, care, and safety. Your cruelty ends today." Suddenly, several overseers stepped forward, trying to grab Lucas. The crowd gasped, fearful and uncertain. But then, unexpectedly, A few workers stepped between Lucas and the overseers, forming a protective barrier. Their eyes were filled with newfound courage. "We support Lucas." One worker called out bravely, "He cares about us." More voices joined in, growing louder and more confident. "We want justice." Another shouted, seeing their workers united and defiant. The overseers hesitated, momentarily unsure of what to do. The confrontation ended in tense silence, with the overseers retreating reluctantly. Lucas breathed a sigh of relief, deeply moved by the courage shown by the workers. Afterward, Nira came forward, her eyes shining with gratitude and pride. "You have inspired us, Lucas," she said softly. "We are finally finding our voice." Lucas smiled warmly. "This is your victory, Nira. Your bravery gives hope to everyone." That evening, Lucas and his team gathered again, encouraged by the day's events, but knowing the struggle was far from over. Messages from Earth and other groups began arriving, promising support and immediate action. They were finally making progress. Lucas felt exhausted but hopeful. He knew the overseers might still try something desperate, but he was confident they could face whatever came next. With the colony united and help on its way, the future looked brighter. He knew this was only one step, but it was significant. Together, they would continue fighting until everyone in the colony experienced true freedom, respect, and dignity. Lucas felt proud, knowing they had already made a difference, proving that one voice joined by many could change everything. The day after the meeting, the colony felt different. People walked with more purpose. They spoke quietly among themselves, sharing what Lucas had said. For the first time in a long while, there was hope in the air. Nira felt it too. She walked to the mine early, eager to help the humans however she could. Lucas and his friends had received a message from Earth during the night. The Earth Union Council had seen the reports and evidence. They were shocked by the conditions and promised to send a team soon. They also said that the colony's leadership would face questions. Lucas read the message out loud to Kate and Aaron, and they all felt relief. But they also knew the overseers wouldn't sit still. They were angry, and they might try to stop them before help arrived. Lucas met Nira near the old well where they had first spoken. She smiled when she saw him. "You look tired," she said gently. "I am," Lucas admitted, smiling back. "But I also feel strong. We're getting closer. The people are waking up." They walked through the colony together. Lucas noticed that more workers were speaking up. A few nodded at him. Some even gave a quiet smile. The fear was still there, but it was beginning to fade. Suddenly, a loud alarm rang through the colony. Nira froze. "That sound. It means there's trouble." They rushed toward the main square. A crowd had gathered. 2 workers had been caught by the overseers and were being punished for helping the humans. One of them was a young man who had spoken during the meeting. The other was a woman who had shared her story with Aaron. Lucas pushed through the crowd and stepped forward. "Stop!" he shouted. "This is wrong. Let them go." The lead overseer stepped forward with a cold smile. "You are not in charge here, human. These people broke our rules. They will be punished." "No," Lucas said, his voice firm. "They did what was right, and I sent their stories to Earth. The Council knows. If you hurt them now, you will face serious consequences." The overseer looked. Uncertain, the crowd was watching, waiting. For the first time, the power in the colony felt like it was shifting. The overseers backed away slowly. The workers were released. Nira rushed to help the young woman stand. "Are you okay?" she asked. "Yes," the woman whispered. "Because of you?" Lucas turned to the crowd. "You are not alone anymore. Earth is sending help. We need to stay strong and protect each other until they arrive." The crowd nodded, and someone began to clap. More joined in. It wasn't loud, but it was strong. It was the sound of courage. Later that day, Lucas, Kate, and Aaron met to talk about next steps. Kate had finished repairing a broken communications tower. Aaron had created a list of people who needed urgent medical care. Lucas had spoken to more workers, asking them to stay peaceful but united. As the sun set, Nira came to Lucas again. She had something in her hand, a small charm made of polished stones. "This is from my mother," she said. "She made it when I was a child. I want you to have it." Lucas took it carefully. "I can't take this, Nira. It's too important." "It's because it's important that I want you to have it," she said. "You gave us hope. You gave me hope. This is my way of saying thank you." Lucas felt moved. He placed the charm in his pocket. "Then I will carry it proudly." That night, the humans didn't sleep much. They knew the overseers might try something again, so they took turns keeping watch. Nira stayed with Lucas. They talked about many things: her childhood, Earth, and what freedom might look like for her people. In the morning, a ship appeared in the sky. It was large and bright, with markings of the Earth Union Council. People looked up, shielding their eyes from the sun. Hope filled the air. The overseers tried to stop the landing, but it was no use. The ship touched down at the edge of the colony. Officials stepped out, serious and ready. Lucas and his team ran to greet them, explaining everything quickly. The officials wasted no time. They ordered the overseers to stand down and began talking to the workers. Medical supplies were brought out. A few engineers examined the mines. Change had finally arrived. Nira stood beside Lucas, tears in her eyes. They came. They really came. "Yes," Lucas said quietly, "because you spoke, because you didn't give up." The colony was no longer a place of silence and fear. It was becoming a place of hope, thanks to one voice that had once cried alone and one human who chose to listen. The Earth Union officials wasted no time. After landing, they spread out across the colony. They spoke with workers, listened to their stories, and walked through the broken buildings. What they saw shocked them. Many of them had read Lucas's reports, but seeing it in person made the pain real. Lucas, Kate, and Aaron stayed close, helping the officials find the worst areas. Nira walked with them too, answering questions and guiding them to the sick and injured. She felt nervous at first, but Lucas's calm presence beside her made her feel stronger. One official, a kind woman named Claire, spent a long time talking to the sick workers. She knelt beside them, checked their wounds, and made notes. She looked at Aaron and said, "You did well to help them, but they need real treatment." Aaron nodded. "We did what we could, but the supplies were too few." Claire looked around. "We've brought doctors and more medicine. We will set up a mobile clinic right away." News spread quickly through the colony. The humans from Earth were not just visitors. They were helping. Workers who had stayed quiet before now stepped forward. They told their stories, showed their injuries, and asked for help without fear. Meanwhile, the overseers stayed hidden. They knew their power was gone. A few tried to argue with the officials, but their words were weak. The evidence was too strong. One by one, they were taken into custody for questioning. The crowd watched as they were led away. There were no cheers, only quiet relief. Lucas stood near the main square and looked around. It was the first time he saw people smiling in the colony. Children played near the well. Workers sat in the sun, resting without fear. The air felt different, lighter, and warm. Nir stood beside him. "Is this what peace feels like?" She asked softly. Lucas looked at her and nodded. "Yes, it's just the beginning, but it's real." Later that day, a meeting was held in the open space near the landing site. The Earth Union leader, a tall man with calm eyes named Daniel, stood before the workers. "We have seen your pain," Daniel said. "We have heard your voices. This colony will not return to the old ways. From now on, you will choose your leaders. You will have rights, and most of all, you will have respect." The crowd listened quietly, the words sinking deep. Daniel continued, "We will stay until a fair council is in place. You will help decide how this colony moves forward." Tears rolled down Nira's cheeks. She had waited so long for this moment. Lucas gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "This happened because Of you, he said. No, Nira whispered. It happened because you listened. That night, the colony lights glowed brighter than ever. A celebration began, not loud or wild, but full of gentle joy. Small fires were lit, music played softly, and people gathered in groups, talking and laughing. For the first time in years, Doc Kate danced with a group of young workers, while Aaron helped serve food at one of the tables. Lucas sat beside Nira, watching the scene with quiet happiness. Do you miss Earth? Nira asked him. Sometimes, Lucas answered. But right now, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Nira smiled. You're part of our story now. Lucas looked up at the stars. And your story is just beginning. In the days that followed, the officials worked closely with the people of the colony. They helped set up a local council, made of workers, elders, and a few from Earth. Nira was asked to be on the council. At first, she said no, unsure if she was ready. But Lucas encouraged her. You've already led with your heart, he told her. Now let your voice lead too. With courage, Nira accepted. On her first day, she spoke about justice, kindness, and the need to remember the past. Her words were simple, but they touched everyone deeply. Lucas and his team began preparing to leave. Their mission was done, and other planets needed help too. Saying goodbye was hard. Nira stood with Lucas near the ship, holding the charm she had once given him. Thank you, she said, for everything. Lucas smiled. Thank you for not giving up. They hugged gently. No more words were needed. As the ship rose into the sky, the people of the colony waved. A new future waited for them. A future built on courage, kindness, and one human voice that chose to listen when no one else would. Many months passed after the Earth Union ship left the colony. Life on Allura had changed in many ways. The people no longer worked in fear. The overseers were gone, and a new council now guided the colony. Nira, once a quiet voice crying alone, had become one of the most respected leaders. Each day, Nira walked through the colony to speak with the people. She asked about their needs and listened with care. The workers now had breaks, better tools, and real medical care. Children no longer worked in the mines. They went to school, learned to read, and played freely in the open fields. The mobile clinic had grown into a full health center. Aaron had returned once, bringing more supplies and new doctors. He was proud to see how well the colony was doing. Kate also visited and helped build new machines to make work safer and faster. Lucas had not returned yet, but he often sent messages. Each time Nira received one, her heart warmed. He always asked how she was doing, how the people were living, and reminded her that she had started something powerful. One morning, a message arrived from Lucas. He wrote that he would be visiting soon. This time not on a mission, but as a friend. Nira smiled as she read his words. She remembered the day he first spoke to her when no one else did. That moment still felt like a dream. On the day of his return, the colony prepared a small welcome. People decorated the square with lights and colors. Children made drawings of Lucas and his team, hanging them on the walls. It was not a grand party, but it was full of love. When the ship landed, everyone waited quietly. As Lucas stepped out, smiles and cheers filled the air. He looked around and saw familiar faces, stronger, happier, and free. Then he saw Nira. She stepped forward, her eyes shining with joy. They hugged gently, both feeling a deep connection. That time had not broken. You kept your promise, Nira said. And you kept your hope alive, Lucas replied. Lucas walked through the colony with Nira. Everywhere they went, people waved and thanked him. He listened to their stories, amazed by how much had changed. Gardens had grown where broken buildings once stood. The air was fresh, and laughter filled the streets dotted the council hall. Nira introduced Lucas to the new leaders. They were a mix of young and old, human and alien. All had been chosen by the people. Lucas listened as they shared plans for the future clean energy, new schools, trade with other planets. The colony was not just surviving. It was growing. That evening, a quiet gathering was held under the stars. People sat on blankets, shared food, and told stories. A group of children performed a small play about a brave human who listened when no one else would. Lucas laughed and wiped a tear from his eye. Nira sat beside him smiling. Later, as the stars sparkled above, Nira spoke softly. "Do you know why I cried that day so long ago?" Lucas looked at her kindly. "Because you had lost hope." Nira nodded. "Yes, I thought no one would ever care. I thought our pain didn't matter. But you changed that with just a few words." "You listen." Lucas took a deep breath. "Sometimes that's all it takes. One person to say, 'I hear you.' One moment of kindness." The two sat in silence for a while, feeling the peace around them. The colony no longer needed saving. It had saved itself, but it had all started with a small act of compassion. The next day, Lucas visited the mine. It was no longer a place of sorrow. Machines now did most of the hard work. Workers wore protective gear and worked shorter hours. Murals decorated the walls, showing stories of change and courage. Lucas stood at the entrance, looking at the mine and then at the sky. Nira joined him, and they both smiled. "This place is full of life now," Lucas said. "Because someone once believed we deserved better," Nira replied. Lucas turned to her. "What will you do next?" "We will help others," Nira said. "There are more places like we once were. We can share what we've learned. Maybe we can be the ones who listen next." Lucas nodded. "That would be the greatest gift." As the ship prepared to take him home, Lucas stood with Nira and the council. He looked at the people, the children, the sky above. "This is not goodbye," he said. "This is a new beginning for all of us." The ship lifted off slowly, and the colony watched it rise. Nira held the charm she had once given Lucas, now returned to her. It sparkled in the light, a symbol of hope, change, and the human who heard a cry when no one else did.